will start with the fact that the mercenary quarterback of the champion Georgia Bulldogs, who steamrolled and took the sport from Nick Saban, has not yet graduated from Georgia, despite the fact that he's been there since 1942.
Bring him back. Bring him back, Dan. Come on. If you say he hasn't earned his degree, I see, challenge accepted. Well, let's see if we can stretch that eligibility a little bit longer. Yeah, Stetson Bennett has been in one form or another aligned with the Georgia Bulldogs or transferring in hope of returning since 2017. 2017. Some people, by the way, think, oh man, that's really not using your time well. That's poor time management. My friend, if you're from Blackshear, Georgia, all you want to do is get to Athens, Georgia. That's it. Some people want Paris. That man wanted Athens, and he got it for 7 years of glorious bowling, beer consumption, and general layaboutery. That's really all you want, because I got to tell you, the reason that Stetson Bennett is so beloved, there's two things. One, yes, he did win 2 national titles. One would have done. They would have worshipped him for the rest of his life. He would have had his car dealerships, etc., just based on that. But he got 2. In addition to that, though, he did it their way. And by their way, I mean by wearing Croakies, all right? By not going to class. By stretching what should be a 4-year term at a very manageable course load at a very manageably intelligent university. And by the way, it's a good school. I'm just saying, I know a lot of people who put it in 3rd gear and got degrees there, okay? Maybe 2nd gear. It's not exactly a potboiler of a school when it comes to pressure. Additionally, he wore sandals. He did very little for 7 years. 7 years. That's the dream. That's all these people want, is to spend more time in Athens. And he got 7 years. Think about that as a fraction of his life, Dan. All right, he's 25, 26 years old. He spent 7 years orbiting Athens. By percentage, that's the dream.
Spencer, there's
like
so
half his life.
There are so many people listening to this who say, "Give me 7 years of general layaboutery, and then I'll own a car dealership as a champion quarterback. I'll take it."
Dan, just for reference for everybody, 2017. Jimmy Butler was playing for the Chicago Bulls.
It's a long time ago. And you are right, though, when you say, Spencer, when you say this, it is shocking and not shocking. It's the life we all want. But you're an astute observer of the history of the sport. So even you must be fascinated as quarterback position becomes now a mercenary job that will pay millions of dollars. What a great grift this dude has as a non-student who was just there to have a great assembly of talent around him and be the modern-day Ken Dorsey.
Be the modern-day George Gipp. If you'll remember, Ronald Reagan earns the nickname the Gipper for playing George Gipp, Notre Dame star player who has a big moment where he dies on a hospital bed and says, "Win one for the Gipper." That never happened, of course, like most things in Notre Dame's football history. But what you should also know about George Gipp is that George Gipp was awesome because George Gipp was the original Stetson Bennett. Instead of attending class at Notre Dame, which there's very little evidence that he ever did, he hung out and made money playing pool in pool halls in South Bend and gambling. That's what George Gipp did. This is not an aberration. This is not mercenary work. This, sir, this is tradition. This is tradition. Stetson Bennett is a throwback of the first order.
My favorite version of this is Chris Winkie on the baseball money, winning championships at FSU as somebody who I believe was 54 years old.
Come on, a smooth 54. That man for a 54-year-old could glide. Like, I think that's the dream. We used to sort of regard that as a joke. Now, you say mercenary. What makes you think that he wants to go play or do anything else? The man can't get out of Athens. He's going to stick there. He's going to be elected governor, and they'll let him serve there.
As someone who has also been following what's been happening, roiling in politics around the world and in America, what do you make of Georgia not going to the White House?
All politics are local, and I will say this. The most local concern for Georgia is that the football team continue winning. It's a little underplayed story that I don't think people would be surprised to hear, but the environment under Kirby Smart at Georgia, if you can spell out the words boiler room, every morning, what are you doing to make Georgia better? Starting at 6 and going deep into the evening. That place is a very high pressure place to work. They are focused entirely on the work of football. To ascribe any political motivations to a football coach not having to go somewhere that's not football related, I think that'd be silly. I mean, I would, of course, buy it if that's what you were trying to sell me. If you're like, the governor of Georgia called and told them to do it. No, I think the way things work in Georgia right now is that Kirby would tell the governor that they're not going and that they're cool with it, because it means Kirby can watch more film and recruit. That's it. It's logistically a nightmare to get everyone to Washington and back. And as someone who doesn't like DC much myself, I'm fine. If you're like, oh yeah, we're not going to Washington DC, like, oh, cool.
You would agree the only way to wrestle Alabama away, the football championship away from Alabama, is to be more about the big business of football than even Alabama, correct?
100%, Dan. This is like Kirby Smart is very much on some I'm going to continue to beat up my dad business right now. Once was not enough. He's just going to drop the hammer. He's just going to put the accelerator to the floor. And like the only thing I see stopping Georgia at this point is burnout. That's really it. And I just say that because it's very hard for anyone to maintain this pace. You say, well, Nick Saban maintained this pace for, the better part of 15, 20 years across two different programs. That is true. However, they don't make many of him. And you say, well, they don't make many of Kirby Smarts. Yeah, but everybody runs a little differently. And if I had to bet on regression to the mean, I would say that, Georgia's reign might be more intense and more total, but shorter, just because that's one person. People are not a renewable resource. You do use yourself up and you do burn out. That would be my one bet. If you go like, well, how does this all, collapse in the end? Is it scandal? People love that. People love when programs collapse in scandal. I'm holding up the U right now. If we could do that for you. But I don't think that's how Georgia's going to go. I think this one kind of eventually fizzles out because they are going so hard and because that is such a difficult and high pressure environment for everyone to work in.